Hello and welcome to Kiga. My name is Camila, and this podcast has everything to do with life force, energy, and the art of embodying the yogic path. My intention with Kiga is to help you remember who you really are underneath all the layers. We are connected to something so much grander and so much bigger than we can ever imagine. All right, so I want to play you a clip that I had watched on Gaia, and it kind of sent me into a thought loop. So I thought I would share.
We see spiritual people, I don't know, blaming others because they eat animals. And then you see the Dalai Lama eating meat or people like that, a monk. Why? If you have to love everything. And maybe there is a family that share their love by cooking something to the person. And the one that is wise says, this is made with love. I cannot judge love because they are sharing their love with me through energy. So they cannot judge the matter. They can only see the energy. Okay? So when you get wise, when you find wisdom, suddenly all the morality and ethics goes away because you are what you're supposed to be. And when you are what you're supposed to be, you are in balance with everyone. So that's why ethics and morality goes away. Because ethics and morality is to remember people what not to do because they don't know what to do. Okay? So when you don't have anything telling you what to do.
I find that this comes up quite often in life, right? You know, the meat eaters versus the non-meat eaters, and just, yeah, sometimes, people judge others for their choices. And what I really love in what he said was that the monk cannot judge the matter. He doesn't judge the meat. He can only see the energy that came from love. And so this idea, comes from mindfulness and a non-judgment perspective that's found in Buddhist teachings. And so it doesn't mean anything is morally fine. It just means the monk was relating to the situation through awareness, through compassion, rather than blame and, an ego reaction. So the monk is recognizing that this food was prepared with care and love and generosity. And instead of focusing on labels like good versus bad or what's right versus wrong, the monk focuses on the gratitude. He focuses on the relationship and the intention behind the offering. So, receiving becomes this act of respect and non ego, because refusing the food would have rejected that person's generosity. It would have created separation. And, most Buddhist monks follow a dietary guideline, but when food is offered sincerely, clinging to this rigid identity can actually create more suffering than the food itself. So essentially, I feel it's less about, you know, the ethics behind eating the meat versus not because it's going to harm the animal, and more about how we meet reality. Two people can eat the same meal, one in guilt, fear, and mental conflict, while the other one in gratitude, calmness, and presence. And what's going on internally within your mind as you are eating makes a huge difference to how your body receives it. This is also why I feel some people can eat the same things And one person will, let's say, gain weight and the other person won't, because one person has guilt while they're eating it, and that guilt is held in the body as tension or protection. But moving on to how this relates to yoga, because the yogic path is much more than the asana. And asana is the yoga poses, right? Yoga is so much more than the poses you copy the teacher in class. The poses, aka the asana, is just a little thumbnail of the entire body of wisdom and philosophy. So I feel this topic also relates to what we have in yoga called the yamas and niyamas, which comes from the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali. And essentially, the yamas are about your relationship with the outside world, and the niyamas are about your relationship with your inner world. So, Patanjali came up with the sutras to explain just the vastness and complexity of the ancient yogic traditions into a more accessible and tangible guide. Ahimsa is the first yama, and it means non harming, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. So it's choosing compassion over attack, kindness over harshness, especially towards yourself. There's also a parigraha, which is non grasping, and it's letting go of rigid attachments to our identity. When you say, like, I am this kind of person, or preferences and labels, a lot of this judgment comes from clinging to this is how it must be. And a parigraha invites us to kind of loosen that grip, stay open, and just receive life as it is. And so yoga isn't just poses. Okay, it's how you eat, it's how you receive, it's how you relate with life, it's how you soften your egotistic reactions. The monk's response is essentially bringing yoga off the mat and into your daily life. Now, it's kind of interesting and ironic because ahimsa is non harming. And even though the monk is technically harming the animal by condoning to eat it, he still focuses on the love that it was made from and not the matter itself. And this is a real paradox in ethics. And I'm sure many of us humans wrestle with this because even though ahimsa means non harming, it also teaches that, sometimes harm is unavoidable. And life includes moments of unavoidable harm. We walk on insects without noticing. Farming disrupts the ecosystem. Even strict vegetarian diets can affect the living systems in this world. And so survival requires taking from nature. And some choose strict vegetarian diets to reduce that physical harm, and others choose compassion in relationships to reduce social and emotional harm. One doesn't make the other wrong, and yet both can be prioritized in the moment differently depending on the person's choice. So, yoga philosophy often asks, what is the consciousness behind the action? Because in the end, the monk isn't saying that killing the animal is good. He's practicing meeting the moment without hatred and ego. Yoga invites conscious participation from us, not moral perfection. And I think that's important to note here because you can honor both truths. Yes, right and wrong exist, but awareness and intention matter just as much as the rules, or just rules in general. So, yoga isn't saying anything goes. Harm is real, suffering is real, choices definitely have consequences, but situations aren't always black and white. Sometimes every option carries some harm. And the question is, are you acting from ego or are you acting from awareness? Because the same action has a different inner state. So it's not right versus wrong. It's do less harm, stay aware, act with compassion, and don't weaponize morality. Discern, use your discernment for what feels aligned, and make values based on choices and care deeply about what's ethical, but without shaming others and inflating ego and creating this separation. So, my question for you is, can two truths exist at once? Because what if wisdom lives in the space between the extremes? And maybe the practice isn't about being right, but about being deeply conscious. So may you continue to meet each moment with an open heart and honest awareness. And may you possibly come to this agreement that, maybe two truths can exist at once. And maybe one doesn't make the other better, wrong, right. It just is. It just is. Much love. If you enjoyed this episode, please share the love and subscribe. Don't forget to come back for more.